In a subway station, a young man stands still, carefully observing a girl. She carries a guitar on her back and seems focused on her phone, naturally sliding her fingers across the screen. He, unable to help himself, thinks that she is there again, occupying the same nearby seat, while he watches her out of the corner of his eye. He remembers that they have run into each other several times in the subway. It's almost an unspoken routine. She always goes home late, and today is no exception. Once again, they find themselves on the last train of the night. As he watches her, the young man discreetly averts his gaze and starts imagining things about her. Because of the instrument she carries, he assumes she studies music or maybe is part of a band. The idea intrigues him, though he can't be sure. Then, suddenly, the girl looks directly at him. Their eyes meet, and the eye contact completely unsettles him. The young man feels a knot in his stomach, aware that he had gotten lost in his thoughts and had been watching her for quite some time without realizing it. He reflects in silence. Although they have run into each other multiple times, he is convinced that only he is aware of these repeated encounters. To him, these coincidences are nothing more than that, mere happenstance, not something dictated by fate. However, what he doesn't know is that the girl has a different perception. Trying to distract himself from his thoughts, the young man decides that he won't be able to concentrate on reading as he had planned. He takes out his headphones and looks for some music. Among the options, he wonders if he should listen to that new song. Finally, he chooses the melancholic Dark Planet by Long Afternoon. As he presses play, he considers the song's introduction to be unbeatable. No matter how many times he has heard it before, it always moves him with the same intensity. The first verse is no exception. It is simply magnificent, capable of transporting him to another world. He admits to himself that it is a masterpiece, one of those songs that touch the soul, though unfortunately, almost no one seems to know it. This thought fills him with a certain melancholy, wishing with all his heart to share this feeling with someone who understands its greatness. Suddenly, he wonders why the sound seems so low. He adjusts his headphones a bit and questions whether they are damaged. Even so, he decides to gradually increase the volume, turning it up more and more until reaching the maximum. That's when, unexpectedly, the girl next to him calls out to him. Her voice surprises him, as he hadn't noticed how close she was. She leans slightly toward him, and with a tone that mixes patience and reproach, asks him to lower the volume because she can hear the song clearly from where she is. Confused, the boy checks his phone and, to his embarrassment, realizes that his headphones weren't plugged in. He freezes for a moment, feeling the heat of shame on his face as the girl watches him. Before he can say anything, she breaks the silence and asks if he really likes that song. Her question catches him off guard, and he hesitates to respond. However, before he can find the right words, she surprises him even more. She confesses that she also loves that song. The boy is left speechless. Surprise and joy take over him, and little by little, a spark of excitement lights up his face. His eyes begin to shine as he feels that he has finally found someone who shares his passion. With enthusiasm and a nervous smile, he quickly stands up. He tells the girl that he is a big fan of the composer and also enjoys other works by the artist. For the first time in a long while, he feels that the notes of that song have found an echo in someone else, and that fills him with happiness. The girl responds that she likes it too, which encourages the young man, who excitedly comments that he has never met anyone who enjoys that band, Long Afternoon. He also mentions that he considers the artist's songs to be very good, regretting that he is an independent musician with few fans. The girl nods and explains that, indeed, he doesn't have many followers because his songs don't fit current trends and aren't promoted or communicated enough. The young man reflects on this and agrees, but adds that he believes if the artist did concerts, the audience would record videos, share them on social media, and that would help more people discover him. Then he curiously mentions that the singer's Instagram profile only features a drawn character, a yukin, as if he wants to maintain an aura of mystery around his identity. That's when the girl, intrigued, asks if he thinks the singer should reveal his face. The young man, somewhat thoughtful, replies that it's not necessary. As a fan, he would love to know what the artist looks like, but he also admires that the musician focuses solely on creating the music he loves rather than getting distracted by other things. He thinks that this touch of mystery makes him unique and confesses that he appreciates Long Afternoon just the way he is now. The girl smiles softly, as if she finds his opinion interesting, and suddenly asks if they have met before. The young man is taken aback for a few seconds, unsure how to respond. Finally, somewhat nervous, he murmurs that he's not sure, though in his mind, he decides to pretend he has never seen her before. He thinks that if he acts otherwise, she might realize that he has actually been paying close attention to her. Noticing his reaction, she walks toward the train entrance and, with an amused look, questions whether what he said is true. Saying that she thought she had seen him before, she mentions that she noticed how he always stares at her and asks directly if that isn't true. Upon hearing those words, the young man feels a wave of emotions overwhelm him, almost as if he had been struck by an unexpected blow. He is left speechless for a moment, processing. After that moment, he reflects on whether she really knew that he had always been silently watching her every time they crossed paths on the train, and that they had even taken the same train day after day. The thought overwhelms him and fills him with unease. Somewhere else, more precisely at his workplace, the young man, unable to contain himself, shouts, letting out the accumulated tension. He feels condemned, as if everything he has done so far has come to light. At that moment, his boss appears, having heard the shout, and casually asks if someone had a rating attack or if something out of the ordinary happened. However, he does not respond directly to his boss and instead looks for her to vent. Desperately, he asks what he should do and what would happen if he were taken as a stalker. His boss, upon hearing his words, furrows her brow in confusion and asks him seriously what he is talking about. The young man, trying to explain himself, recounts in detail what happened on the train, his thoughts, and his fear of having scared the girl. Oyuju, the boss and owner of the cafe where he works, listens attentively to the story. With a calm tone, she tells him that there is nothing to worry about and that, in fact, the mere fact that the girl mentioned having noticed him could mean that she was already aware of his existence. Despite his boss's words of encouragement, the young man confesses his concern that he might have intimidated her in some way. He wonders if she considers him a stalker, but reasons out loud that if that were the case, she would probably have avoided taking the same station long ago. His boss nods, supporting his reasoning, and adds that if he is truly worried, the best thing to do would be to talk to the girl directly the next time they meet. According to her, only then will he know exactly how she feels and clear up any misunderstandings. Oyuju even jokes that maybe a romance could come out of this situation. However, the young man quickly dismisses the idea, considering it nonsense. But his boss insists, asking with a mischievous smile why it wouldn't be possible, especially considering how many times he has seen her. He admits that it is true, but also clarifies that he does not have those kinds of feelings for her. Moreover, he believes he is not in a position to fall in love with anyone, as he is busy with graduation and needs to prepare for work and earn money to pay rent. He confesses that he was simply curious because he had seen her so often and always wondered why she returned home so late and what she did for a living. His boss, upon hearing this, asks if that isn't how all relationships start. The boy comments that he doesn't know. He adds that he would be satisfied if they could just be friends, since that way they could talk about something they both enjoy. That's when Oyuju comments that this is precisely how relationships begin, which annoys the boy, who responds that it's not true. But his boss changes the subject and mentions that it's time to work since they have a pending order. After work, while heading home, the young man wonders if he will meet the girl again on the last train. He considers apologizing to her for always watching her, since he wants to clarify things, so she doesn't think he is a weird stranger. However, he also wants to have an intense conversation about long afternoon, as it is difficult to find someone with the same taste. So he decides to stop for a moment and hopes that she thinks the same as he does. At the station, the young man encounters a drunk worker occupying the seat where he always sits. He wonders why that man is sleeping there and feels somewhat annoyed. He assumes that now he won't be able to sit on the bench near her to start a casual conversation. Just at that moment, she looks at him. At the same time, he moves away, assuming that it won't be possible to talk to her today, and decides that he might as well study a little since it seems odd to force a conversation. He doesn't want to approach her because he fears causing misunderstandings, so he tells himself that today he will pass by without saying anything. But the girl asks him if he really plans to wait for the train standing up. That catches his attention, so he looks at her. She tells him that the train is still a while away and asks if he really intends to stand the whole time. He replies that there are no more seats, but she lightly taps the empty space on the seat next to her and tells him that there is a free spot right there. She invites him to feel free to sit for a while, at least until the last train arrives. The boy is left speechless and reflects on what she said, remembering someone and how back then they also approached him in a similar way. He thinks for a moment and concludes that this person is already part of his past, while now he is living in the present. Finally, he decides to sit for a while and leave when the train arrives, taking a seat next to the girl. Although he tries to keep some distance from her, the girl quickly asks if he usually takes the train at that time and if he often gets home late. He responds that he works the evening shift at a cafe and that although his boss allows him to leave early, he sometimes finishes late. His answer leaves the girl thoughtful, as she begins to deduce more things about the young man just from knowing that he works part-time. Then she comments that he is probably still a university student, to which he confirms that he is in his 4th year. She is surprised and assumes that he must be preparing his job applications, something he also corroborates. She adds that it must be difficult to work late and study at the same time. Intrigued, he asks if she also comes home late from work. However, she jokes that no, she simply likes talking to guys with peculiar tastes before going home. This left the young man startled, but then it became clear that it wasn't a joke. She explained that it was about people with unique and somewhat hardcore preferences, and mentioned that she dealt with some clients like that before heading home. Then, the young man began to imagine what the girl's job could be. He wondered what all of that meant and if it was something he was completely unaware of. Seeing him confused, she gave a slight smile and then clarified that she was referring to a music studio with rehearsal and recording rooms. She revealed that many bands formed by office workers usually book the studio late at night. Being the studio director, she often works late and sometimes stays up all night. The boy, somewhat nervous, managed to understand the part about the music studio. However, the woman asked if he had just thought of something strange. He replied that he hadn't, although his attitude betrayed that he had. Teasing him a bit more, she questioned whether he wasn't thinking something weird just because she had mentioned the word hardcore. Although the young man denied it, his embarrassment gave him away. He then reflected that she was completely playing with him, steering the conversation wherever she wanted. He thought it must have been easy for her to manipulate him. Finally, she asked how he had discovered long afternoon, arguing that with his job and studies, he must have little time to explore new music. The young man replied that finding such an unknown artist had been more of a coincidence than exploration. He recalled that one day he was bedridden with the flu and spent a lot of time resting. He explained that living alone, there was no one to take care of him, so he just stayed in bed with the entire house silent, which made him feel even lonelier. He considered playing some music, so he searched for something at random. That was when he stumbled upon the song Dark Planet by Long Afternoon. He confessed that, at first, he just thought the melody was good. However, the more he listened to it, the more details caught his attention until he became completely enamored with the song, especially the lyrics, which seemed to elevate everything to another level. The girl watched him attentively until he asked what her favorite Long Afternoon song was, even though he knew the band didn't have too many songs. She quickly turned around and replied that she liked Dark Planet and Tidal Flow. The young man burst with excitement upon hearing her answer since he also loved Tidal Flow. He described how he found it fantastic, especially the part where the rhythm changes after the chorus. Still excited, he commented that Long Afternoon was brilliant in the use of electronic instruments, something the girl confirmed with a slight smile. Just at that moment, the train was arriving, and the young man mentioned that it had gotten very late. That was when the girl stood up and told him that what he had just said about the music would surely make Long Afternoon very happy. That comment left him completely flushed. Then, he thought that he would like to talk a little more with her. He didn't want to go on a date or become closer. He just wanted to keep talking about the things they liked. Finally, he introduced himself as Lee Yo-eun, and somewhat nervous, asked if she could tell him her name. She looked at him for a few seconds and, in a calm voice, responded that her name was Shin Hae-in. After saying that, she mentioned that now that he knew her name, he had better greet her the next time they met. If he didn't, she would ignore him forever. That encouraged him, and he responded that he would. Already at home, Hae-in stepped out of the bathroom, drying her hair. Sitting on the bed, she began to reflect on Lee Yo-eun, recalling a moment when they were on the train together. On that occasion, there was a drunk man next to Lee Yo-eun, and on the floor was a wallet. She wondered whose it was and thought that she couldn't just leave it there. However, the boy picked it up and immediately placed it in the drunk man's pocket. Upon witnessing that action, Hae-in reflected that he could have simply left the wallet near the man, but instead, he chose to put it directly into his pocket. Even that could have caused him trouble, as he might have been mistaken for a pickpocket. However, she considered that a good person like him doesn't think too much before showing kindness. She lay down on the bed and thought that she already knew he was kind, but she hadn't expected him to be a fan of Long Afternoon. More specifically, she hadn't expected him to be the passionate fan type. Then, turning over, she wondered if he would still like them if he knew that she was Long Afternoon, or if it would be like that one time, remembering a situation that happened when she was a student. After that brief moment, she reflected that she was once again thinking about something she didn't want to remember. She decided not to give it importance and told herself that people love Long Afternoon for the music. However, she restrained herself, reminding herself that she must not reveal that she is Long Afternoon. She thought that it didn't matter if Woojin stole the spotlight, as long as she kept making good music. She would be fine just being Shin Hae-in, being herself, and continuing to do what she loves. The next day, in a music studio, Shin Hae-in looks at a picture and wonders if she should try it to upload it to Instagram. At that moment, some people come out and she asks if they are vacating room A, which they confirm. Immediately, one of the guys asks if he can make a reservation for next Monday at the same time. Hae-in checks if it is room A and confirms that the reservation can be made. However, the guy adds something else and asks if she could give him her number or Instagram username, as he has wanted to talk to her for a while. At first, Hae-in is left speechless and apologizes. This surprises the guy, and she leaves the place, saying it was embarrassing. Her friend confirms the situation, also reminding her that he had already warned her it wouldn't work. On the other hand, Hae-in gets ready to clean the room. While doing this, someone enters. It's her uncle who has arrived early. He comments that the rehearsal was simple. He is Shin Hyung-sung, Hae-in's uncle and the studio manager. Quickly, he asks why she rejected the young man earlier, as he thought he was totally her type. Upon hearing this, she asks if he saw it and accuses him of watching her secretly. Her uncle denies spying on her and assures her it was just an accident. Regardless, he insists on knowing why she didn't give him her number and asks if it was because she didn't. She responds that she doesn't like talking on the phone because she can't see the other person's face in a message or a call. But then she adds the most important part, that band is not her style, which leads her uncle to ask if that was the reason. However, he then brings up a more relevant issue he needs to inform her about. The 10 p.m. recording reservation was canceled. Before leaving, he tells her that after cleaning that room, she can go home, assuring her that he will take care of the rest. That's when she looks at the clock and notices it's 8 p.m. This excites her, as she will be able to work on new songs at home. However, before she leaves, her uncle enters and gives her something as a gift. She takes it and thanks him, asking what it is. Her uncle explains that today is Valentine's Day, and as a thoughtful uncle, he bought it on his way. He suggests she eat it with coffee while working on her songs, mentioning that people used to go crazy for it. Hae-in, seeing what it is, calls her uncle and asks if she can play the guitar a little before leaving. Without asking many questions, he tells her to do whatever she wants. Meanwhile, at the cafe, Lee Yo-eun tells his boss that he is leaving, and she responds for him to be careful. Then, she encourages him to have a romantic trip home. On his way to the subway, the young man collapses into a chair and comments that the day was chaotic. He starts studying and reflects that he could improve his language grades during the holidays, but there he is, struggling with them. That's when he notices someone. It's Hae-in. He greets her and she responds in the same way, but quickly notices something. She wonders if what he is holding is a gift. However, as if reading his thoughts, she explains that it is a Valentine's Day gift she was given. He understands, but then reflects that she must be very popular as she is attractive and stylish. He considers that she must have many cool people around her and must receive gifts all the time. Then he tells himself he shouldn't worry about it since they don't know each other well enough to have an opinion about it. At that moment, Hae-in asks if studying is very hard, something he confirms. Upon hearing this, she offers him something to eat and suggests recharging energy, as sweets are good when thinking is needed. He asks why she is giving him that and if someone else had given it to her. She replies that she doesn't like sweets, and if she takes it home, she will end up throwing it away, asking him to accept it. Yeo-eun refuses to take it, considering it too much and believing she is giving away something another guy gave her. However, she is confused, and the young man confirms his suspicion, arguing that on this day, it's common for guys to give things to girls. This leaves them both in total silence for a few seconds. Then she clarifies that the gift is from her uncle. Additionally, she questions him, asking if he really thinks she would give away something another guy gave her, and adds that now she is disappointed. This leaves Yo-eun red with embarrassment, starting to laugh nervously. Then he takes the bag and asks if they are candies or chocolates. She thinks he is a fool, but then comments that she hasn't tried them, so she's not sure. However, she knows they are handmade caramel and has heard they are popular these days. Either way, she affirms that they are sweets and asks him to eat them when he takes a break after studying since he won't be able to think without sugar. As he takes the package, he thinks that he has never seen anything like it before. Then he suggests that Hae-in take some, stating that they were a gift from her uncle and that, at the very least, she nods and tells him that he has to tell her what he thinks about the candy tomorrow, or he might leave her disappointed. So she ends up accepting one, opening her mouth and closing her eyes. Seeing this, he asks if she wants him to put it in her mouth, and she responds yes, explaining that she was tuning the guitar and because of that, her hands are greasy. It's better not to use them for now, so she asks him to place the candy on her tongue so she can suck on it. He replies that she could take it home and eat it there, but Hae-in urges him to put it in her mouth. So gently, the boy brings the candy to her lips. However, she reacts strangely, leaving him worried. She responds that the candy is simply too cloying. He asks if that's true, and she confirms it while asking him to try one. That's when he eats one, and his reaction is the same as hers. He complains that it's too sweet. She laughs a little and states that the flavor is so overwhelming that it even gives a headache. She comments that they definitely should eat it with coffee or bitter tea. Otherwise, it won't balance out. Yeo-eun agrees and adds that the combination would be a good idea. Then, he asks her if she wants another one, to which she declines for now. The next day, at Lee Yo-eun's house, he is asleep until his alarm starts ringing. Upon waking up, he complains that it feels like he only slept for 30 minutes, even though it's already morning. He wonders what he should have for breakfast today, and then notices the caramels. He considers that he still has some left, and even though he remembers how overwhelmingly sweet they were, he decides to eat one. The extreme sweetness wakes up his drowsy brain, and he reflects that she was right. It worked well to activate him. Now he is completely awake and ready to start the day. Just at that moment, his phone vibrates. When he looks at what it is, he is surprised. Long Afternoon has posted something new. Already at the cafe, Lee Yo-eun is working at full speed, taking orders one after another with a big smile. His boss, seeing him, comments that he is very cheerful and asks if something good happened. He replies that yes, his favorite musician updated his Instagram, which leaves his boss somewhat confused. But the boy comments that he finally posted something after years, and considering his trajectory so far, he will surely release a new song soon. That makes him cry, and he wonders what kind of song it will be this time, confessing that just imagining it excites him to the point where he can't sleep. His boss, hearing all this, feels somewhat disappointed, as she assumed it was something romantic that had happened. He questions this, and she responds that she was referring to the girl he met on the last train of the night, thinking he had made progress with her. Yeo-eun, hearing this, asks about the topic and says it's not like he dislikes her or anything. His boss, seeing that they meet frequently, thinks they could at least get closer, but he replies that he hasn't even seen her in the last few days. However, he then comments that now that he thinks about it, they have gotten a little closer recently as he knows her name and she knows his, and she even gave him candy on Valentine's Day. His boss, hearing this, gets so excited that sparkles start to appear around her. Then she questions how he found out her name, whether she said it or if he asked, eager to know how everything happened. The young man explains that he was the one who said his name first and then asked hers. However, his boss imagines an entire drama scene, being amazed by it. Then she questions what happened next and if he invited her to dinner as thanks for the gift, or perhaps for a drink. Yeo-eun replies that was all, and nothing else happened. That leaves his boss disappointed, who comments that it was boring, mentioning that if he had gone further, it could have become a story she could use as an anecdote. Yeo-eun comments that his personal life cannot be her anecdote, but she questions what the problem is and if he wants to hear some spicy story about her, something the young man denies. At that moment, a customer appears requesting to order something, asking for a cappuccino to go. Yeo-eun replies that it's fine and that he will call him by his number when it's ready. After turning around, the young man reflects that he feels like he has seen that person somewhere else and wonders who he is. His boss asks if something is wrong, and the boy reveals that the customer who just ordered seems familiar. Upon hearing this, she goes to see who he is, realizing that it is Sung Hyun-jae, an independent singer. The young man is surprised and wonders what he is doing there. His boss replies that she doesn't know, but assumes he might like their coffee since he is a regular customer. Yeo-eun is even more surprised and questions since when he has been frequenting the cafe. His boss replies that it's been a while, and at first she didn't know who he was, but one evening he told her. That caused a big commotion at the beginning, similar to what he is causing now. The boy looks at him again and thinks that now he understands why he seemed familiar since he is a public figure. He is the sexiest musician these days and a regular customer at the cafe. He thinks that's cool. After receiving his coffee, he leaves. Upon getting into the car, he sees something on his phone that catches his attention. He is listening to Long Afternoon. He thinks they write interesting songs and also perceives that their style is unique, whether intentionally or not. He likes their mysterious image. Thinking a little more, he decides to send a direct message, as it would be great to arrange a meeting and even make a collaboration possible. On the other hand, on his way home, Yo-eun wonders if he will meet Hae-in today and hopes to see her. He knew she must have also seen the Long Afternoon Instagram update and is eager to talk about all the hints hidden in that image. However, looking at the horizon, he tells himself that openly talking about what he loves is the best feeling in the world. Already at the station, he observes the place where they always meet. He doesn't see her, reflecting that there is still no sign of her. He hasn't seen her since Valentine's Day and wonders if she is very busy or if her schedule has changed. Or maybe he made a mistake somehow, and now she is avoiding him, thinking she must have hated his reaction to the gift that day. Those intrusive thoughts make him somewhat sad, and he murmurs that he had high hopes in vain. But to his surprise, she appears behind him, asking what has him so disappointed. Yeo-eun quickly turns around and greets her cheerfully. He says that it has been a while and thought he wouldn't see her today either. However, she asks again why he is disappointed and with a teasing smile asks if it's because he couldn't see her. He confesses that it's something like that, but then he notices that there's something different about her. Observing her closely, he assumes something, asking if she is drunk, which she confirms, questioning if it's that obvious, and stating that she had some time alone at a bar. She says that she recently finished something she was working on, so she just wanted to celebrate a little. The young man mentions that it's great and asks what she was working on. But Shin Hae-in says it's a secret, laughing a little. Yeo-eun, upon observing that, blushes, thinking that it surprised him since she is very cute when she smiles, and he considers that drunk Hae-in is the best. He can't stop thinking that she looks truly beautiful, and he tells himself to focus and change the subject. Then he asks if she saw the picture that Long Afternoon uploaded on their Instagram. But before he could say more, a voice announces that the train is arriving. That leaves him somewhat surprised since it's too soon. He thinks that he didn't get to say even half of the things he wanted to, and now they have to part ways. He believes that the train is too noisy, making it impossible for them to have a proper conversation. He wonders what he should do and considers that there was so much he wanted to talk to her about. But then he thinks that if he waits too long, the excitement will fade, and there will be nothing left to say, so he has to talk about what he wants. It is then that he calls her and asks if she wants to have a drink with him, leaving her speechless, to which she then asks if the invitation would be for now. Both remain silent for a few seconds until Yo-eun realizes what he is saying and concludes that wanting to talk more, he suggested going for a drink. He reflects that this makes him seem like a jerk who invites just anyone on the street. So he then apologizes to her and admits that what he said a moment ago was a mistake. But to his and my surprise, she accepted. Then she says that for some reason she doesn't want this to end there. She mentions that now they will go for a drink together, just a little more. That leaves him speechless and blushing. It is then that they both enter the train, remaining silent. The young man thinks that every time the subway shakes, his shoulder bumps against hers, and that excites him, considering that these small sensations make him feel like a high school boy going through puberty. He assumes it's because he is looking to have a drink with someone after a long time. It is then that she asks where he lives, and Yeon answers that he lives near Namdong Station. So she suggests drinking somewhere around there. He understands, but then comments that when they finish drinking, she will have to go home. Then he asks what will happen to her and how she plans to get home after drinking. She replies that she will take a taxi and that she can handle the situation since she is He becomes somewhat thoughtful, but then informs her that he will pay for the taxi fare. However, she replies that it will be fine since he is paying for the drinks anyway. She adds that if she gets drunk, he will have to take care of her. That makes him curious about what that would be like. So she asks him to come closer and whispers that when she gets drunk, she sleeps as nature intended. Upon hearing that, he is surprised and blushes with embarrassment. That makes her look at him in detail before immediately saying that she was joking. As they exit the station, Hae-in asks if this is the neighborhood where he lives, and the young man explains that yes, and that his studio is only a 5-minute walk away. That makes her thoughtful, as if she wants to go there. It is then that Yeon suggests that they go drink near the station since there is a draft beer place he has been to several times. The idea seems appealing to Hae-in, and she says she will follow him since she trusts him. However, upon arriving at the bar, he notices that the place is closed, which makes him even more nervous. He quickly comments that he didn't know the place had closed since he hadn't been there in a while. She asks him not to apologize since she knows it's not his fault. So the young man thinks about finding another place quickly, but doesn't know what to do. He hasn't been drinking recently, so he doesn't know the nearby places well. He wonders what would happen if they go to an uncomfortable place and doesn't want to ruin this little outing. Hae-in notices that he is a bit nervous and then mentions that she has a god idea, saying that it's already getting late and there aren't many god places. Then she states that the only place they can go, and that he also knows well, is his house, asking what he thinks about that. At first, he says that there is no way that will happen, but in the end, they end up there. Upon entering, she comments that it is quite clean for a studio, which makes the guy think that it is both his studio and his home. Moreover, he is glad he cleaned last week because otherwise, she would have seen a mess. It is then that she interrupts his thoughts and decides to ask a question. She wants to know if he, Yeon, has a girlfriend. He asks why she wants to know that, and Hae-in explains that she doesn't want to cause a misunderstanding since being alone there might seem strange if a woman enters a man's house when he has a girlfriend. That's why, if he has a girlfriend, she doesn't want to be mistaken for a lover. Yeon responds that he doesn't have a girlfriend and is single. She says that's for the best and that now she can drink in peace. But then he asks if he can drink without worries and if she is dating someone. To both of their surprise, she comments that she has someone. She reveals that his name is Liam, a foreigner who always has sharp words, is a god singer, and is really god. That makes Yeon question whether it's wrong for them to be drinking alone. But then she smiles and states that she was lying, that she was just joking, leaving him speechless. She explains that Liam is the lead vocalist of the band Oasis and thought he knew enough about music to understand the joke. He questions how he could have known that, and she apologizes for it. Yeon says she scared him, and that he was worried he might have accidentally hurt someone's feelings. She gives a slight sigh of understanding and proposes a toast to that, to the night where no one will get hurt. He does so while simultaneously asking if she really doesn't have a boyfriend, to which Hae-in confirms she does not. After a few drinks, Yeon completely loses control. He says he is speaking correctly, and that the new image their singer uploaded on Instagram is a clue. He explains that it's an image of Yukin, which has 4 elements, clearly meaning that the new song by Long Afternoon will be released in April. And one of the instruments is a ukulele, which might be a hint that she will use a ukulele or a guitar as musical accompaniment. Hae-in thinks that might be true, but she believes that was not the intended meaning behind the image. Yeon confesses that he was so happy to have found this clue and is thrilled that the song will be released in April, driving him crazy with excitement. Then he asks if she is just as excited, which takes her by surprise, but she confirms that she is and that she can't wait for it to happen. But then she reflects that she has already finished recording the song but wasn't planning to release it in April. She wonders if she should hurry and sign the distribution contract now. It is then that the young man perceives something and says that Hae-in's voice sounds like long afternoons, a slightly husky voice, as if there were a bit of mist and a soft tone that feels similar. That makes her blush slightly. But then she hears him say that long afternoon's voice is fresher. Hae-in understands that he really likes long afternoon, and she didn't expect him to talk about it all night. The young man asks if he bored her, but she replies that he didn't, that it's fun and she likes talking about it, since it's better than having strange feelings and talking seriously. He says that he doesn't get serious when he gets drunk, something she confirms also happens to her. It is at a moment like this that she asks him to feel free to keep talking while she gets up to sit on the young man's bed. She adds that she will lie down and listen to him and asks if that's okay. At first, he says he doesn't know because if she lies down like that, she will surely fall asleep while listening to him, and that would be like watching an ASMR YouTuber. But she asks if she can do it. And dazzling with beauty, she says she will listen to him talk until she falls asleep in his bed, leaving Yeon blushing and speechless. Both remain completely silent until the boy asks if that is the case. She responds with another question and says that if it's not okay, she will stay. He, more blushed than before, questions if she is joking and asks her not to provoke him like that again. However, she approaches him and says that whether it's a joke or not will depend on him. She adds that if the owner says they should leave, then it's a joke. But if he says they should stay, then it is not. So she asks Yeon what he should do and whether that would be a joke or not. He is left speechless for a few seconds, recalling all his moments with her. But then Hae-in interrupts him, saying that either way, she will stay. Yeon understands and responds that either way, he has the day off tomorrow, and there is still much to talk about. She gives a slight smile, expressing that she is happy with that, but then she starts unbuttoning her pants, causing the young man to spill his entire drink. He quickly asks what she is doing and why she is suddenly taking off her pants. Hae-in explains that she just unbuttoned them. Besides, she just drank beer and her stomach is full. That's why she unbuttoned her pants to relax. The young man seems to reflect on that but is still blushing. Then he asks if she would prefer to put on something else. The girl, upon hearing that, finds the idea pleasant. So Yeon gets up to look for a tracksuit he recently washed. He says it might be too big for her, but that it will be very comfortable. However, she feels somewhat disappointed because the beer is gone. The young man asks if there is no more, and she replies that she is drinking the last can. Upon hearing that, he asks if she wants to continue drinking, and if so, he will go out to buy more. Which, to no one's surprise, she confirms that she will. So Lee Yo-eun informs her that he is going to the corner store and will be back soon. He also asks her to change while he is away. He then wonders if she needs anything and asks if she wants a toothbrush or something similar that he can buy. Hae-in declines and reveals that she brought her own toothbrush, as she has almost everything she needs in her bag. However, she then asks if he could buy something for her. She explains that she just realized a moment ago that the date is approaching. She didn't bring anything with her and needs him to buy it. She assures that anything will be fine and that she will pay him later. So, already at the corner store, the young man blushes a little and starts looking for something. He assumes that when she said that, she meant feminine pads. He confesses to himself that he has never bought them before, so he doesn't know which one to choose. He reflects that he cannot go back to ask. That's when he sees something and it's nothing but balloons for adult parties. He blushes even more and wonders if it could be that when she referred to that, she meant the balloons. He hits his head while asking himself what he is thinking and if he is crazy. But then he stops and thinks that if he said he wasn't thinking about it now, he would be lying, as he considers Hae-in very attractive and an extremely kind person. That is why he should take things slowly and not ruin everything by rushing too much. He doesn't want to be rejected like last time when his feelings were too obvious to that person. Moreover, just seeing Hae-in for a second when taking the last train already makes him very happy. But he also reflects that if she takes the initiative today, he has no reason to refuse. He blushes even more at imagining such a situation. That excites him so much that he can't even stand up. After that brief moment, the young man returns to his apartment and announces to Hae-in that he is back. He starts looking for her, as he received no response, and then sees her lying on her bed. Already, he thinks that she mentioned recently having something on her mind, and it seems that she relaxed and fell asleep. He observes her more and approaches, calling her and asking her to wake up for a moment. He informs her that he will put a blanket on her since if she sleeps like that, she will get sick. But she quickly grabs him by the neck. That attitude takes him by surprise, and he asks what she is doing, asking her to wait a little. However, she starts laughing and says that he is handsome and completely her type. That leaves Lee Yo-eun in the clouds, but she quickly falls into a deep sleep, bidding him goodbye by saying he is very cool. He looks at her and wonders if she talks in her sleep. He also thinks that he almost fell over Hae-in, and that her thin fingers felt very soft on his neck. Moreover, that warm breath near his face almost made him lose his mind. Then he lies on the couch, and with some embarrassment, reflects that if she had hugged him at that moment, he wouldn't have been able to push her away. He confesses that despite being drunk, he cannot stop his feelings when he is being enticed. Thus, the next morning, Lee Yo-eun wakes up somewhat drowsy, complains that his neck hurts a lot, and thinks that it would have been better to sleep on the floor. But then he notices that Hae-in is not there and wonders where she went. He believes she went to the bathroom, but then sees a bag with a note on top. It was from Hae-in, and she said that he seemed to be sleeping deeply, so she didn't want to wake him up, and that's why she left first. She mentions that she will use what he bought and will pay for it later. Moreover, she informs him that the clothes she wore are already in the washing. Yo-eun understands that she left early, and looking at the bag, sees that she even picked up the beer he bought yesterday, which she could have left for him. He wonders if she took out the other trash, but then he sees the balloons from the store yesterday. That leaves him speechless, and he wonders why that is there. Taking it, he questions himself if he really bought that, recalling that night when he thought he wouldn't need it since today they only drank to talk. Moreover, he realizes that is not the right attitude with Hae-in. But then he cheers up, thinking that what if something happens, and that he has to be prepared for that moment, getting fully encouraged. In the present, he seems disappointed and wonders if she saw that, at the same time cursing himself. He adds that maybe she thinks he is a pervert. He assumes that now she thinks he only seduced her that night for a one-night stand, feeling completely embarrassed about it. Thus, on another day, the young man meets Hae-in. She, upon seeing him, cannot help but draw a slight smile. She greets him and tells him that she thinks there is something they need to talk about. So Yo-eun wonders what she should do and considers making something up to go unnoticed. She imagines saying that the balloon she saw was for a university project, as she needed it to write a marketing report. But she creates another story and says that she actually bought it as a charm, since there is a superstition that carrying it helps with exams. However, in the present, Yo-eun considers those excuses to be terrible. She concludes that it is ridiculous and that lying would be very pathetic and mean. She believes that the best option is to be honest about what she was thinking at that moment, even if it means being scolded. So she starts to speak, but Hae-in interrupts her and asks if she can say something first. He clearly gives her the floor, so she says that what she wants to say is not a big deal. But there is something she wants him to know beforehand and reveals that, for a while, she plans to keep some distance from him. That leaves the young man surprised, and he then asks why. She explains that she realized she feels no tension when she is with him, especially the last time she was drunk. But still, she thinks that maybe it is because when she was younger, she used to hang out with her uncle's bandmates, always talking about music. She concludes that she assumed she played around with him without much caution and, without realizing it, crossed a line. So, for now, she thinks she needs to put distance between them. Yeon remains silent for a few seconds and then asks if it is because of the balloons he bought. She looks at him and then starts laughing, saying that maybe that bothered him. She confesses that it caught her off guard, but she wasn't annoyed. Considering the party atmosphere that day, it wouldn't be surprising if he felt that way. Besides, they are both adults. But then she adds with some teasing that she didn't expect him to consider a one-night stand. That catches him off guard, and then he apologizes for it, explaining that he didn't suggest drinking for a one-night stand. Hae-in, mature as always, understands what happened and adds that, in any case, that's not what she meant by crossing the line. Since whatever happened, it was not a big deal. That leaves the young man confused, and he questions what she means then. Hae-in then shrugs and reveals that it's because he is too unbearable, saying this while hiding part of her face and blushing. Yeon, upon hearing that, asks what she means. The woman asks him to think about it, referring to the things he did that night. Recalling that he barged into someone's apartment uninvited because he wanted to drink, shamelessly borrowed clothes, and slept in the bed while the host had to sleep on the sofa. She concluded that everything she had done was detestable and unbearable. Yeon looked at her for a few seconds, then laughed and asked if she was referring to those things. Hae-in replied that she was so happy while drunk that she didn't realize what she was doing, but when she woke up, she really felt bad about it. That's why she ran away without even saying goodbye, apologizing for her behavior. Hearing all that, Yeon thought it was surprising since Hae-in had always been cool and confident, as if she didn't care what others thought of her. But now, seeing her regretful, embarrassed, and apologizing in that way, it seemed unexpected, and maybe because of that, he found that side of her very cute. That led him to turn away to try not to laugh, making her curious about his reaction. Then she said that, anyway, she wanted to keep some distance because of those rude things she had done, and that if she stayed close, she might do something similar again. Letting him know that she might not return to that station for a while. Hearing that, Yeon exclaimed that that wasn't right, moving even closer to Hae-in. She asked why it wasn't right. Yeon blushes but manages to find words he had never said before. He exclaims that Long Afternoon might release a new song soon and that he would like to talk about it, especially with her. Hae-in looks at him deeply and, with a hint of irony, mentions that if she stays close, she might do something stupid again. Besides, she reminds him that he already knows her drinking habits and that she might even do something worse. However, Yeon asks her not to worry about that, assuring her that he can handle any action she considers rude. He even adds that he can also accept her mischievous jokes and antics when she's drunk, begging her never to stay away from him. She is left speechless until the station announces that the next train is arriving. Hae-in, happy with what he said, asks if she can choose the snacks next time. This leaves Yeon somewhat confused, but she explains that when she returns home, they have to drink together again, and that's why she wants to be in charge of choosing the snacks. Yeon, radiant with happiness, exclaims yes, and that it sounds like a great idea. This also makes Hae-in happy. Then, she stands up and tells him to keep what he bought last time, as they might need it soon. Yeo-eun is confused about what she means, but he quickly remembers the balloons he bought, although he doesn't think that's it. With a look from the girl, she clarifies that she means the beer. Hae-in arrives home, and while taking off her coat, she thinks about how relieved she is that Yeon wasn't upset, as she feared he would hate her. However, she realizes that although he has forgiven her for her rudeness, her embarrassing actions will not disappear, leaving her blushing at the memory. She throws herself on the bed and hides her embarrassed face in the pillow while wondering why she acted that way, thinking she must have looked like a perverted monster. Then she reflects that if she hadn't fallen asleep that time, maybe something would have happened, imagining the whole scene. This makes her very embarrassed, and she quickly sits up, questioning what she is thinking and calling herself stupid. She concludes that she should take a shower and focus on composing herself. She grabs her phone and sees that she had sketched a melody earlier in the practice room, so she decides to work on it. But before reviewing the sketch, she notices she has a direct message. She wonders what it is about, and whether it is really his account and not a fake. Her surprise grows when she realizes that the message is from Sung Hyun-jae, who proposes a collaboration and asks her to let him know her thoughts on it. After that, in the recording studio, Hae-in is playing something. Then she pauses and remembers the message she received yesterday from Sung Hyun-jae. She confesses to herself that she ended up overthinking it and couldn't respond. She wonders what she should do since, considering Sung Hyun-jae's music style, collaborating sounds fun. That's when someone knocks on the studio door and she gives permission to enter, revealing her uncle, who asks if she is still practicing. Hae-in responds that she is about to finish and asks why. He replies that he is ordering dinner for that night and asks if she would like to eat some spicy tteokbokki. The girl, upon hearing what he is ordering, confesses that she hadn't planned on eating something spicy, but in the end, she totally agrees. So the food arrives, and her uncle comments that it is delicious, declaring that tteokbokki is perfect when he's stressed. He asks her to eat quickly before it gets cold, which she does. But while eating, she wonders what she should do and feels that it's rude to respond so late, so she needs to decide something quickly. Her uncle thinks she is not reacting because it's not spicy enough, wondering if he should have ordered the infernal spicy flavor. But she replies that it's not that, and explains the story about the collaboration. Her uncle, upon hearing that, expresses that it's a great opportunity. She responds that it is, but it was so sudden, and that's why she's a bit hesitant. The man asks if he made any irrational request, but she responds that it's not that. It's just that this person is truly a successful musician. And if they collaborate, eventually, she will feel like she's in the spotlight too. Upon hearing that, her uncle understands that she worries about having her face recognized, and she reveals that she does. This leaves the man silent, and he reflects that he would say it's an unnecessary concern and would ask her to move forward in her music career. But that's what he would like to say if it weren't for everything that happened when she was younger, the pain she suffered, the wounds she carries, and how they still hurt. Even now, he doesn't know if she is still suffering or not, but he knows that all of that is still there. Although on the other hand, he hopes that she can overcome that pain quickly and spread her wings. From a musician's perspective, she is a truly talented artist. So he asks why she doesn't suggest meeting him to chat, as that might be better. He adds that, as a fellow musician, he might understand her position and could also help her find a solution. He mentions that even if they don't collaborate, they could get closer thanks to this opportunity, leaving her deep in thought. Until her uncle asks to meet him to get his autograph, as they could use it for the studio's promotion. That seems to annoy her a little, as she considers it deceptive advertising. It's already the end of the day when Hae-in thinks that she spent the whole day looking for a solution to that issue when she was supposed to adjust the guitar line for the new song today. That's when she sees an advertisement featuring a woman and reflects on how the celebrities and rock stars she admires endure people's opinions and keep going, questioning how much courage it takes to overcome that pressure. She wishes she could share that bold spirit. But then her thoughts are interrupted when she sees Yo-eun making a funny face. This leaves her speechless for a few seconds, and then she asks what he is doing. Noticing her, he explains that there was a special employee program today and that he was reviewing the interview training he received there. Anyway, she questions what he was just doing, and he explains that it was an expression practice, meaning he was practicing a natural smile to make a good impression. Hae-in asks if she can take a look at the brochure, something he confirms, clarifying that it's nothing special. Upon taking a closer look, she asks if he has to pay attention to so many things just for an interview. He nods and says that there's even more to prepare. He also has to create a story that fits with the company and present himself according to trends, which is quite annoying. She thinks for a moment, then asks if he wants to try something. He questions what. She explains that now she is going to make him talk without avoiding the interviewer's gaze. He is a bit confused at first, but then questions how he is supposed to do that where they are. She responds that it's simple, and she will ask any question and he just has to answer. She clarifies that, of course, if he avoids her gaze, he is out, and she asks if he understood. The young man questions if she really wants to do that there, confessing that it's a bit embarrassing. But she asks what's wrong with that, and it's not like anyone else is around, something he confirms. So he asks to do it quickly, and she says she will start. But first, she looks at him and notices that he has a different gaze. She thinks that it has been a while since she last saw his serious face, but then she believes it is the first time she has seen him this serious. She thinks that this look is probably Yo-eun giving his best effort. She adds that when he enters the interview room, she is sure the world will see him with a very serious expression, conveying the feeling of giving everything he has to move forward. Then she imagines him in the interview room, wearing a semi-formal suit and with his hair slicked back, wanting to see him, blushing because of it. But then, he breaks that imagination by asking if she is not going to ask a question. Leaving her surprised, she then says that she was thinking about something for a moment and will now start asking. She starts with something simple, wanting to know when his last kiss was. Yo-eun is surprised and quickly gets into character, questioning what kind of company asks such a personal question. But Hae-in argues that they might throw some unexpected questions, so they must practice those situations. He responds that no one asks that kind of question and that this is not a drinking game, so she considers that boring and announces that he is disqualified. That seems to make him angry, informing her that he will report them to the employment ministry. That little scene amuses her, making her smile a little. So she says she will give him something for the interview. Showing him her pick, she says it is her lucky charm. Besides, she uses it on the guitar when she plays. She informs him that if he takes it, he will not make any mistakes because that pick contains the energy she puts into her practice. She asks him to take it to the interview to succeed. He looks at that small object, holding it tightly and thanking her for the gift, confirming that he will definitely take it to the interview. This makes Hae-in happy. On the other hand, somewhere else, Song Hyun-jae was working on something until he received a message. Seeing what it was, he was delighted, as it was long afternoon, replying that he would think better after the interview. He concludes that he is a unique person since he expressed the idea of talking face-to-face. And so, the day of the interview arrives. Hae-in stands in front of a large building. She mentions that they had agreed to meet in that building, but wonders on which floor his studio is. That's when Hyunjae appears and asks if she is Long Afternoon. He introduces himself, saying he is pleased to meet her, and then asks if it was difficult for her to find the place. She confirms that it was, assuring that she wouldn't have arrived without Google Maps. The young man chuckles slightly and confesses that he was a bit worried because all the alleys in that area look very similar. Then he asks if she is alone, since when he sent her a direct message, he read that a member of her group would accompany her. She explains that she usually works alone and that the other members only help with recording and arrangements. Upon hearing this, he asks if she is like a one-person band. She confirms and reveals that it's because everyone else has solo careers, and their drummer is still in university. Hyunjae understands, reflecting on the fact that he has a band but is also a solo artist. He then asks her to follow him, saying they will talk inside. But before that, he asks how she would like him to address her. She responds that her name is Shin Hae-in and that he can call her whatever he prefers, so he decides on Hein. Already in some section of the building, the young man explains that the company's meeting room is under renovation, so they will talk in his studio. Additionally, they can record a demo of the song. Upon hearing this, she asks if the entire building belongs to him, but he denies it, informing her that he only rented a few offices. However, he adds that you never know, if the record label he is preparing goes well, he might buy the whole building. That impresses her, but not as much as he expected. Looking at her, he thinks her reaction was too normal and believed she would be immediately interested when he mentioned the record label. This means that she is either not interested in joining his label or does not trust that he can do it on his own. He thinks that's fine since he knew convincing her wouldn't be easy. But the truth is, Hae-in spent the whole night composing and is sleepy. She wants to finish this meeting so she can take a nap in the ensemble room. Already in the studio, he asks if she wants something to drink, offering coffee, soda, or beer. She declines and prefers to discuss the collaboration plan first. He chuckles a little and understands, as after all, they managed to make time in their busy schedules to meet. So he hands her the contract and asks her to review the terms of the agreement. If she has any questions, she is free to ask. Hae-in starts reading the contract and then asks a question, wanting to know if, in case the collaboration happens, she will have to do any live performances or publicity with her face revealed. Hyunjae, looking at her carefully, responds that it all depends on her. She can remain a faceless artist as she is now, or gradually start revealing herself alongside him. However, before continuing, he wants to explain something to her. The reason he wants to collaborate with Long Afternoon is not because he thinks it will be a commercial success. Rather, he wanted to introduce this talented artist to the public, concluding that he did it purely out of sincere admiration. He asks her to keep that in mind. After that, he asks if they can listen to a demo, to which she agrees. However, she thought he would say that he wouldn't play live, but to her surprise, that wasn't the case. She wonders if this is hypocrisy just to close the deal or if he genuinely cares about her. After preparing everything, he informs her that they are about to start. As he presses play on the keyboard, a melody begins to play. After listening for a bit, she makes a face, asks him to wait a moment, and doesn't believe this is a real collaboration. She asks if she is only supposed to contribute vocals to a song he already finished. He confirms this and asks if the song is bad. However, she replies that the song is great. But since this is supposed to be a collaboration, it should have her style as well as Song Hyunjae's. She asks him to step aside for a second, overwhelming him for a moment as he gives her the space she needs. So Hae-in prepares herself and informs him that she will delete all the unnecessary tracks. Hearing this, he asks why she doesn't just mute them instead. But she responds that she doesn't know how to do that and will delete everything, scaring him. Then, Hae-in says that there is no turning back from her decision. The young man is in tears, having stayed up for 3 nights trying to find the perfect percussion. However, Hae-in doesn't care about that. In fact, she thinks the song he wrote is perfect, that there's nothing that needs improvement. If she alters it, she won't be able to make it her own. But then she remembers that there are people who like his song and his style. So if it's about long afternoon, she can't give up her style and begins playing something with great emotion. Song Hyun-jae watches this and reflects that he already knew she was influenced by shoegaze and post-rock. But he didn't know she could arrange music like that. He realizes it's not about abandoning her style or making compromises. She takes the songs into her own territory and He thinks this will be fun and considers Long Afternoon, or rather, the girl Hae-in, an impressive artist. He has a feeling that a great song will come out of this. Then he interrupts her and asks if she wants him to bring some beer. Looking at him, she confirms that she does and says she will start writing the first verse and finish the arrangements by the end of the day. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yo-eun is on his computer, wondering if he can finish this task like this since he's afraid of losing points for such a weak argument. For now, he doesn't know, so he decides to take a break. Outside, he stretches and thinks that by mid-April, midterms will be over, and he'll have a bit more time. He should work on his personality and attend some job fairs. But he also thinks about something else. He wants to have a drink with Hae-in, blushing slightly. However, clearly, that would have to be on his agenda. Just at that moment, he receives a notification. When he hears it, he thinks he had put his phone on silent because if it rings in the library, he would be in trouble. Then when he sees what it is, he is left speechless. As the hours pass and night falls, already at the train station, Hae-in is listening to something until someone calls her. It was Yo-eun, who was sweaty and very excited, asking to hold a music gathering since Long Afternoon will be releasing new music. She is somewhat confused about this music gathering while at the same time looking at the young man's phone screen. Hae-in, upon hearing about a music gathering, asks what it is. Yo-eun explains that it's a party for listening to music, where people gather to discover new songs and share their impressions, just like with a movie. The girl seems impressed since she didn't know something like that existed, as she had never heard of it before. The young man tells her that when he was in high school, a friend asked him to accompany her to a listening party with the artist himself. He reveals that on that day, they listened to the new songs together, and then the artist himself spoke about how he interpreted the song and how he came to write the lyrics. That's why Yo-eun suggests that they should also hold a music gathering. Then he asks Hae-in if she saw what Long Afternoon posted on Instagram. He shows her the post on his phone and mentions that the song will be released on April 28th, so they should listen to it together at his house. The girl seems thoughtful about the idea and then asks if it wouldn't lose its meaning since Long Afternoon wouldn't be there. To her, it's important for the artist to be present to talk about the song. Yo-eun responds that she's right, but that they can still have fun on their own and have a few drinks. Hae-in looks at him with a slight smile and, getting closer, asks if that was what he was really hoping for, implying that he actually just wanted to drink with her. This catches him off guard, and he quickly denies it, replying that he just wanted to talk about Long Afternoon's new song together. But then he blushes a little and confesses that, although he admits it, he needed an excuse. Hae-in looks at him closely before smiling dazzlingly. She then agrees to the gathering but says she'll check if her schedule is free that day. So she looks at April 28 and realizes something, wondering if they will have to record the collaboration song that night. That's when she responds that she doesn't think the 28th will be possible since they'll be recording in the studio until late at night. The young man feels a bit disappointed but understands the situation. However, Hae-in quickly says she can reschedule it and that there's still time. Yo-eun asks her not to, as she would have to worry too much, and that it was just an improvised suggestion he made out of excitement. Looking at him, she thinks that, even though he says that, it bothers her how he looks like a puppy that hasn't been taken for a walk. However, she can't help it, as she just agreed to that schedule with the band, so she can't postpone it any further. After thinking for a bit, Hae-in places a hand on his shoulder and says they can drink another time since he doesn't need an excuse to invite his friend for a drink, suggesting they go drinking together after she's done with midterms. That seems to cheer him up, and he responds that it's fine and that there will be other good days. Just then, the train starts arriving. A few days pass, and at Yeowon's university, the professor announces that the exam period is over and asks them to put down their pencils and hand in their answer sheets. The young man stretches a little, mentioning that he's finally finished. He reflects that midterms are finally over, and he only has to submit his assignments next week. Then he'll be free for a while, thinking that he almost died from so many exams. Just at that moment, as he was walking, a group of friends spotted him, and one of the guys asked if he had finished all his exams, inviting him to a review session later with their group. Yeowon responds that he'd love to, but he has work today. The guy, knowing that he works part-time, tries to convince him, saying it's just one day and that the entire club is gathering today. However, Yeowon is a responsible person and declines the invitation since he took a day off last week, so he has to go today. Besides, he knows that Long Afternoon's new song is coming out today. He reflects that, even though he and Hae-in can't meet, he has to enjoy the new song on his own and can't miss that excitement. So the young man says goodbye to the guy who invited him and wishes them a good time. The guy understands, but still comments that he should come by once in a while. Yeowon agrees, but then thinks that the song will be released at 4 p.m. and he will save it for after work so he can finally go home and listen to it properly. Until he gets home, sits on the couch, and puts on his headphones, eager to listen to the song and wondering what kind of music he will hear this time. But before that happens, his stomach growls with hunger and he realizes he hasn't had dinner yet. So he decides to order something for dinner since he just got paid, and for that reason, he'll order some chicken. After placing the order and requesting that the food be left at the door, he decides to take a shower. While in the bathroom, he remembers Hae-in and thinks it's strange since today should be a good day. But he wonders why he feels so lonely. Just at that moment, the doorbell rings insistently. The young man wonders what's going on since he had asked for the food to be left at the entrance and questions why they keep ringing. So he comes out of the bathroom, somewhat annoyed, and yells that he had written in the request for them to leave the food at the door. Opening it, a bit irritated, he finds a familiar face. It was Hae-in. Seeing her, he asks why she's there. She looks at him and replies that she thought they were going to have a music gathering. She responds that she arrived early because she wanted to have a good time and reveals that she bought some good alcohol. Then she asks if she's late. The young man responds that she's not and that he also just got home, inviting her inside. Then she apologizes and asks, while he's alone at home, if he always stays in his underwear. That's when he realizes how he's dressed, blushing and asking her to wait a moment while he puts on some clothes. Hae-in thinks that he must have been in the shower. As he gets dressed, he thinks that she really came to his house. He considers it a disaster since he hasn't tidied up anything and hasn't been able to take out the trash. Then she calls him, and as the young man turns around, he hears Hae-in asking if he could lend her a change of clothes like last time, since before starting to drink, she would love to take a shower first. Leaving the young man speechless. So, in the bathroom, the lovely lady cleans herself and freshens up. Meanwhile, Yeowon cleans a small table. But then he reflects on the fact that she remembered his address and thought that when she came before, she had forgotten. That leads him to assume that she will always remember him, questioning whether that means he can go to her apartment without warning. Since he believes that will happen, he considers cleaning the apartment every day because he doesn't want anything to smell weird. He even thinks that maybe he should buy an air freshener. That's when Hae-in calls Yo-eun and tells him there are no towels in the bathroom, asking if he could bring her one. He responds that he will get one immediately, to which she nods, indicating she will wait. But in his nervousness, the young man gets confused and starts looking for a towel, as he seems to have forgotten where he keeps them. After finding one, he gives it to Hae-in, who thanks him before closing the door. The boy wonders where all this tension is coming from if he only gave her a towel. He sits on the floor and reflects that he needs to calm down, as in moments like this, it is necessary to stay composed. He starts imagining a blasphemous remix, and as he meditates on it, he believes he is about to have an epiphany. But then Hae-in appears, calling him and asking if the shirt he lent her isn't too big. This leaves the young man surprised and blushing at such beauty. For her part, the girl comments that it looks like the shirt will fall off if she moves a little and asks if he doesn't have a tighter one. Then, she strikes a pose and jokingly asks if she should keep wearing that shirt out of respect for his taste. Yo-woon turns as red as a tomato but plays along, saying he doesn't have any other clothes. However, Hae-in asks him not to lie and tells him she just needs another piece of clothes. The young man agrees. So, she puts on a sweatshirt and says this will do. She considers that it's a large size, but she can zip it up. She adds that he has very broad shoulders and notices that the clothes fit him very loosely, which she finds incredible. Changing the subject, Yo-woon asks how she finished work so quickly, as he thought he had heard that she would be working late into the night. She reflects on that and remembers that she was recording the singing. Immediately, she informs those outside that she will keep what she just sang and asks them to play the pre-chorus first. Then, she says that she just finished the verses and will use them as a mixing source, as well as recording them separately. Outside the booth, they inform her that the monitoring is done. There are a couple of young people present. Ham Ki-hoo, the lead guitarist of Long Afternoon, comments that she is recording very quickly today and that she usually does takes until she is satisfied. He asks if this isn't her song, to which Lim Ji-won, the bassist of Long Afternoon, replies that it will be noticeable in the result, since she is doing it perfectly as always. After some time, Hae-in leaves the music studio and informs them that her part is finished. One of the guys gives his approval and congratulates her on a job well done. Then, he says they are done for today and suggests that maybe they could have a party. However, Hae-in interrupts him, rejecting the idea and informing them that she has work. That leaves the young man somewhat confused. She explains that they will have the party after the mixing is done and that the drums were recorded first. Additionally, she congratulates everyone and informs them that she will leave first, asking them to be careful when returning home. She leaves the place. Seeing that, Kim Hoon can't believe it, as he was waiting to invite her for a drink to celebrate the new song release. He wonders if she has a boyfriend. So in the present, Hae-in and Yo-woon are eating fried chicken. She says that she doesn't know when they will finish recording, so she always allows extra time. That's why she sometimes finishes earlier than expected. The young man understands that and admits that he finds it interesting. Just then, Hae-in suggests having a drink before listening to the new Long Afternoon song, and Yo-woon asks if what she has isn't an expensive whiskey. She replies that she is drinking it because she got a little, and she confesses that it is not that expensive. Then, she pours some for both herself. Yo-woon drinks it all in one go, which impresses Hae-in. It is then that he asks if she isn't going to drink. She responds that no, because she is worried about getting drunk too quick. Hearing that, he thinks that he doesn't believe she got drunk that fast the last time she drank whiskey. But Hae-in changes the subject and asks if they shouldn't start with the review first. The young man agrees since it is getting late and asks to play the music. The new song, Blue Kite. He asks if she is ready, to which she nods and suggests starting at the same time. So they press play and focus on the music. Hae-in reflects that this is the same song she has recorded and mixed hundreds of times. She thought that upon hearing it she would be bored, but now, listening to it, she recalls all the thoughts she had while composing it. Fixing some parts and trying out melodies, adding instruments, or even changing the lyrics. Countless thoughts run through her mind, considering that a part of her is in that song. Additionally, Just knowing that someone in the world will listen to it makes her feel overwhelmed. It is then that she takes a sip of her drink and wonders if Yo-woon is liking it. She imagines his reaction of approval and happiness while listening to the music, but also the possibility of disapproval and disappointment with the new song. However, in the end, she concludes that any reaction is fine as long as he listens to her songs. Obviously, she thinks it would be better if he liked it. It is then that she looks at him and notices that, in reality, he is on the verge of tears. Seeing that, Hain thinks it's ridiculous and wonders if he is about to cry. Then she calls him, and he, surprised, asks if she has finished listening. But she, somewhat worried, asks what he was thinking about. The young man replies that the song is very good and that the lyrics really moved him. Even more when it said, "Barely flies at the height of your eyes but does not show itself. With a fading I can cling to but cannot reach. Still today, I resemble you." That part of the lyrics shook him. Then he asks her what she thought of it. She thinks for a moment and responds that the acoustic guitar recording was truly beautiful. Yo-woon laughs as he finds her evaluation too vague and asks her to tell him more about how she felt. Then she talks about the melody, but then wonders what she should do. She remembers that when she found out about things like the music gathering, she didn't want to attend because she thought she would fade away. But now, she wants to get drunk as if there were no tomorrow. She wants to talk and play. She confesses that her heart feels like it's about to explode. On the other hand, Yo-woon looks at her and, slightly blushing, wonders what he can do. He thinks that maybe it's because he hasn't had a strong drink in a while, or maybe it's the music. But at this moment, the only thing he desires is to be able to hug Hain. He questions whether these are his true feelings. So the night continues, with plenty of drinks and food. At one point, Hain raises her glass and says that's when it all started. When the Beatles arrived at New York Airport on February 7, 1964, there was a genuine frenzy. The airport came to a standstill, marking the beginning of the British invasion. She adds that in any case, the Beatles had tons of female fans as idols of the time, so when a journalist approached them and asked them to sing for the audience, all four responded in unison, "Let them pay first." That makes them both start laughing. Yeon says it's funny and immediately points out that she must be a huge Beatles fan since she knows that story by heart. The girl replies that the Beatles were the first pop music her uncle played when she was a child. She was always listening to their songs, so it was a cultural shock for her to hear something so old. At first, she didn't like the sound quality and didn't understand the lyrics, so she thought that was the reason and refused to listen to them. But the more she listened, the more she realized how good and surprising they were. The voices of people who lived before she was born kept singing to her even in the present. That's why she wanted to dedicate herself to music. She wanted her voice to be heard even hundreds of years later, even after aliens invaded Earth. Hearing that, Yoon is intrigued. Hain responds that yes, the guild aliens will take over the planet. The boy asks what that is and if it's a prophecy, but his friend replies no, it's a fact since the human race descends from aliens. Yoon starts laughing and comments that she sounds like a child. However, a doubt arises in the young man, and he asks if she doesn't make music, as he would like to hear some of her songs. Hain thinks about it for a moment and before answering about her songs, lowers her gaze and reflects. Then she replies that she doesn't have any yet, and moreover, she doesn't have a favorite song. Her friend mentions that it's a shame because he's sure her songs would be good. That's when she changes the subject and mentions that, instead, she'll make him a special whiskey cocktail. Yoon responds that he can't drink anymore, that he thinks he has had too much that night, and adds that he loved Long Afternoon's new song, and that the story was interesting. Haeyeon asks if he is sleepy. He replies that he is a little since he stayed up late the night before due to his exams. That makes his friend think of something, and in a spontaneous act, she lies down on Yeon's legs while grabbing her phone. Seeing her, he asks what she's doing, and Hain responds that she's lying down and writing in her journal. She explains that she has an app called Letters to the Stars. In that app, every day you write a line about how you feel, and a star appears in the sky. She thinks it's something really beautiful. Yeon, blushing, asks if she's going to write today. She, also blushing, replies yes and adds that she will write that his thighs are just the right amount of soft and firm, so they're perfect as pillows. That sparks the young man's curiosity, and he asks what exactly that means. Hain responds that she's going to write that she'll sleep using him as a pillow. He laughs and replies that if that's the case, he'll also sleep using her. She looks at him with some curiosity and asks if that's true or if he's joking. Looking at her closely, he asks if she's not scared and if she thinks he's serious. But confident, Hain sighs and responds that she's not scared and that he's drunk. That's how she gets up and asks why they don't go to sleep since she's also a bit tired. At that moment, he says he's not drunk, confessing that he really wants to sleep in her arms that night. And with a gaze that pierces the soul, he asks if she will let him. Hain remains silent for a few seconds and responds with a question, wanting to know if he is brave enough to embrace her. He opens his arms and asks for a hug, assuring her that he won't stop her. That's how he dives headfirst into that opportunity, literally throwing himself and making both of them fall to the floor. Hain looks completely surprised and embarrassed. For his part, Yoon says he's holding himself back a lot, that he doesn't want to treat her badly, and that he doesn't want to do anything. Upon hearing that, she seems to understand, smiles with her eyes, and says she gets it, that she will really let him. That they can stay embraced that night. And it seems that happens, because after a few seconds like that, Hain calls him. But he responds that it's great. That leaves the girl curious, wondering if he really fell asleep while they were hugging. She remembers that he said he had been up late the previous night because of his exams, in addition to the fact that they drank whiskey together. That's when she, with great effort, starts moving him toward the bed. Once there, she looks at him for a moment and reflects on how, after drinking, he falls asleep, giving him small taps. Then, she starts taking off his sweatshirt and thinks that at least he said something, wondering if he would mind if she snuggled up with him. She throws the sweatshirt onto the couch and hugs. That makes her realize that she likes the smell of his soap, the scent of his fabric softener, and the slight smoky touch of the whiskey. She feels like he's driving her crazy, that she wants to smell his neck, that she desires to sense the scent of his bare skin. She concludes that she loves his scent. But she doesn't want him to know that she didn't tell him it was long, that she didn't reveal everything about herself, that she cowardly hid to observe his reaction and revel in it all. That leads her to reflect on something deeper. Maybe it's not Yo-woon who lacks the courage to embrace someone, but rather the person hiding their identity. Maybe it's her. That's how the next day, Yeon wakes up, confesses that he's going to have a headache, and wonders how much he drank last night. Moreover, he questions when he got to bed and remembers Haein talking about the Beatles the night before. He wonders what happened next and doesn't remember anything, so he hugs the blanket and thinks that he doesn't know what happened, but that he'll sleep a little longer, believing that Haein went home first. However, he feels something strange and wonders what it is and why the blanket is so stiff. He questions what's there, and upon touching the blanket, it seems very soft or something like that. That's when Haein starts emerging from there, saying good morning and laughing a little. That leaves the young man completely shocked. She, on the other hand, asks if he slept well and hopes he wasn't uncomfortable because of her. Yeon, still confused, wonders what's going on, and if he really slept with her last night. He questions whether they were in the same bed and can't believe it. He thinks it can't be true and wonders if he made a mistake. Just at that moment, she asks if he wants ramen for breakfast. At a certain moment, Haein is drying her hair with a hairdryer, a gesture that does not go unnoticed by Yoon, who watches her in silence. Suddenly, he breaks the silence with a question that troubles him, wanting to know if he really spent the night with her. The doubt torments him, and, unable to help himself, he questions himself. Did he get drunk again? Did he do something strange without remembering? His thoughts are interrupted when Haein, without warning, calls his name, startling him suddenly. He barely has time to react when she asks about his schedule for the day, and if he has any important commitments. Yoon, still a little confused, calmly responds that he has nothing special planned beyond his workday. He explains that after work, he will spend the rest of the day at home going through some pending tasks. Upon hearing his response, Haein seems relieved. With a slight smile, she comments that it's good since he will be able to rest a little. She recalls that the day before, he looked extremely exhausted and is glad to know he will have some time to relax. Then she gets up and mentions that she will eat the ramen before going to work. Yoon watches her for a moment and asks why she doesn't stay at his place until it's time for work. He assures her that if she decides to stay, he wouldn't mind at all. However, after picking up the bowl, Haein turns to him with a curious expression and questions why she should stay. With a slightly playful tone, she asks if he wants her to spend more time with him. Faced with that unexpected question, Yoon becomes visibly nervous. He quickly shakes his head and responds that it's not that, but that she might be too tired to go home and then head out again. Haein, without giving it too much thought, tells him that she doesn't mind going home to relax a bit before going out again. Besides, she adds that she needs to change clothes. She adds that it's not that she likes his place, it's just that where he lives is closer to the studio where she works. That left the young man deep in thought, wondering if he should tell her that she can come to his place whenever she wants. However, he immediately dismissed that thought and questioned himself about what he was thinking and why Haein would go to his apartment without any reason. He reminded himself that there was nothing between them, trying to push the idea out of his mind. That's when she called him and immediately asked if he usually did any kind of exercise. That caught him by surprise, piquing his curiosity. Naturally, he responded that he worked out at home on his days off and that sometimes he went running in the morning, as he had been part of an athletics club in the past. Haein nodded as if she had gotten the answer she expected. Intrigued, Yoon couldn't help but ask her why she was asking. Haein, without hesitation, explained that she simply felt that he was in good shape. Then, in a casual tone, she mentioned what had really led her to that conclusion, since she had hugged him last night. She confessed that she had thought he had broad shoulders, but it was when she hugged him that she could feel his solid body and the firmness of his arms. Yeun, suddenly nervous about that comment, quickly asked her if he had hugged her back. Haein, with a hint of amusement in her tone, looked at him curiously before asking if he didn't remember. Then, without giving him time to react, she lightly revealed that the night before, he had suddenly hugged her. With a teasing tone, she recounted how he had said that he was holding back to save his life. Yeun widened his eyes in surprise, trying to process what he had just heard. He murmured to himself, trying to convince himself that it couldn't be true and that she must be teasing him. But Haein firmly denied it, assuring him that it was completely true. She then asked again, with a tone between amusement and genuine curiosity, if he really didn't remember. Then, in a softer voice, she added something else. She said that when he suddenly hugged her so tightly, she thought she wouldn't be able to sleep that night. However, he ended up falling asleep before she did, so she just lay beside him and let herself be carried away by the tranquility of the moment. The boy apologized to her, thinking he must have been really drunk. but Hain replied that it was okay and that she had enjoyed the moment too. That left Yoon somewhat surprised. Then, the girl mentioned that it had been a long time since she had hugged someone so tightly. She revealed that she learned something new, that people's bodies are harder than she thought. She told him not to worry too much about it and assured him that everything was fine while getting up and collecting the dishes, as she would take care of washing them. At another moment, a couple of people are exercising when Yeon runs past them at full speed. While running, he reflects on how he has been studying a lot lately and has barely exercised, so he is probably out of shape. That's why he is only doing it for his health and fitness, not to impress Hain. Pushing himself to the limit, at one point he remembers Hain and thinks that if she likes it, of course that would be great. Stopping for a moment to catch his breath, he starts stretching and tells himself that it's fine, that he just needs to run one more lap before going home to work on his upper body. He plans to do 1,000 push-ups. Meanwhile, at Hain's workplace, she is focused on her drawing and in a good mood. Looking at the drawing, she confesses that the character resembles someone she knows and wonders if she might include it in her Yingstar photo later. That's when Ham Ki-hoon appears, yelling for her, completely startling her and making her quickly hide her tablet. The man, noticing her reaction, asks why she is so surprised and if she was watching something inappropriate. She, making a gesture, responds that she doesn't watch those kinds of things and asks what he is doing there. The man replies that his team has the place reserved until 3. Hain confirms this upon noticing that it is reserved for that idiot. Unbothered, he lightens the conversation by saying that he and his brother-in-law got drunk the night before. Upon hearing this, the girl asks if they went out after she left. The young man nods and tells her that they stayed until dawn at a lamb skewer place where they drank expensive drinks and that he paid the bill. Hain seems happy for him and asks if they got close to Sung Hyun-jae. He answers affirmatively and adds that he also knows his band. Ki-hoon then reveals that before going home the night before, they had a small chat and that he wanted to ask her something. He asks if she would be willing to do a live clip as part of the collaboration. Upon hearing this, she is surprised. Ki-hoon explains that, in other words, it would be a live compilation film, something common, similar to a music video with multiple cameras. Additionally, they could cover her face in the editing, and he asks if she would be willing to try that. Hain stares at him, deep in thought, and begins to reflect. She knew things were going to escalate, but a music video is a big step. Even so, she thinks that if she can gather some courage, she could create that kind of content over and over again. She wonders if that person would have a new expression on their face. Finally, she responds that she will think about it and believes she could do it, as long as it doesn't involve showing her face. Later, Yoon confesses that his muscles hurt a lot from too much exercise and regrets having rushed his training. However, upon further reflection, he realizes that it was a full day. He had breakfast with Han, did quick exercises, and finished his task. Not to mention that he also listened to Long Afternoon's new song. When he arrives at work, he greets his boss, but someone else receives him. This makes him wonder where his boss is and if she went shopping. Upon seeing her, he greets her and heads to change. On the way, he says it's time to switch shifts, and if his boss shows up, he'll tell her he was first. However, the girl responds that the boss won't be able to work that night since she reported being sick an hour ago. This leaves the young man worried, wondering if she got hurt. The girl assures him that she didn't, that she just seems to have a severe cold. She explains that she started feeling chills when she got to work, then developed a very high fever, almost needing to go to the hospital. Yoon, still worried, reflects that he will have to call her later. Then he informs that it's now his turn to work and mentions how hard it must have been for her to be alone. The worker responds that that's why she will stay. She knows it will also be hard for him to work alone, so she will help him just for today. She introduces herself as Won Shin Young. She is 23 years old, and she is on vacation. This is how Shin Young starts working at full speed, delivering orders and attending to customers. Meanwhile, Yo Yoon calls his boss, and when she answers, he asks how she is doing. She, lying in a hospital bed, responds that it's nothing serious and that she's only there with intravenous fluids because she was overworked. However, she also thinks she drank too much last night while watching a drama, which makes Yo Yoon laugh. Then, his boss asks him what's going on with work, whether he thinks he can handle it on his own, and if he needs an assistant. The young man thinks for a moment, and looking at his coworker, he replies that Shin Young said she would stay to help him that afternoon. Hearing that, his boss asks if that means she's working 2 shifts in a row. The young man replies that yes, but he notes that she's just a student on vacation who does nothing during the day, so he considers it fine as long as she gets paid extra. His boss reflects that it must be exhausting, but has no problem with it. So she asks her to do everything she can and tells him to close early today, since she will be at the hospital for more tests, and then will leave. Yo Yoon understands and asks her to get some rest, thus ending the call. Right away, he thinks about how happy he is knowing that she's okay. Then he walks over to Shin Young and calls her. Upon hearing him, she asks what the boss said. He replies that the boss said she can work because she will pay her extra and also advised her not to overwork. Additionally, he asks her to work with him today, since there will be many customers in the afternoon, and it won't be easy. She, full of youthful energy, tells him not to worry because she is strong. Yo Yoon thanks her for her help and then thinks about how lucky he is, knowing that she is a smart person and won't be clumsy at work. Then he tells her that he will now take out the trash bins and receive some orders, to which she nods in understanding. But before he leaves, she comments that she has heard about him. She heard from the boss that he is in his 4th year of university, so she asks if he is older than her. She tells him not to hesitate to speak informally with her since she is 23 years old. He confirms that he will, and then asks if she can watch the counter for a minute since he has work to do. After taking out the trash, Yo Yoon thinks that Shin Young is a clingy person and that, despite having worked with her for just 1 day, she's already asking him to speak informally with her. He remembers that a certain person used to ask him how long he would stay with someone else, how often they met, or how frequently they saw each other. He wonders when he started measuring the continuity of a relationship and the distance between them. But then he returns to the present, setting that simple memory aside. So when he returns to the cafe, Shin Young informs him that they are in trouble. This leaves the young man confused at first, but the girl explains that they have an order for 15 drinks and sandwiches and that she needs help. Seeing the order, the young man is astonished and wonders if it's really for 15 people at this hour. Shin Young confirms and adds that everyone ordered different drinks, which is driving her crazy. Then, Yo Yoon asks her to prepare the drinks while he takes care of the sandwiches. The young man wonders why things got complicated at that moment, but still, he looks at Shin Young and reflects that he is glad she stayed. He was worried that she had only worked there for 2 months, but he concludes that she is very good at her job and responsible, so he can trust her. However, she says that the blender isn't working, which complicates the order even more. At the end of the day, Yo Yoon comments that it has been a tough shift and that the number of customers in the store has increased as the days get longer. For her part, Shin Young asks if she can leave first and offers to help him with the final touches. He replies that it's okay and mentions that the boss doesn't want to pay for a taxi, so he asks her to leave early. However, the girl replies that she doesn't need a taxi since she lives across from the building. This surprises the boy, and she bids him goodbye, saying they will see each other tomorrow. He does the same and asks her to get home safely. As she leaves, he watches her and then begins preparing to close, making sure he can handle the returns by himself. However, he stops and reflects on something important. He wonders how old Miss Hayen is since he has never asked her age. He admits that he has no problem talking to her without knowing, but still, he feels curious. Already at the station, Hayen answers that she is 39 years old. This leaves the boy completely silent and somewhat puzzled. Until he asks if she is lying again, since the expression on her face when she answered clearly gave away a lie. However, she asks if he really didn't believe that she is 39. Yo-yoon responds that no, he's just surprised because if it's true, a long time has passed. That's when he asks again how old she really is and if it's a secret. Hayen responds that it's not a secret and questions why he suddenly feels curious about it, also asking if he is investigating her to see if she's suspicious. He replies that it's not like that, but she insists on knowing why he is curious and adds that she doesn't know his age either, and that in reality, it doesn't matter. The young man looks at her for a few seconds before admitting that she is right, that it's not important, and that he was asking the wrong question. But Hayen, seeing his expression, feels that something is not right and wonders if she was too harsh on him, as she only wanted to tease him a little. So she tells him that she will reveal her age, but first he must promise her something. From now on, when he calls her by her name, he must continue referring to her as Miss. This leaves the young man confused, and he then asks if she hid her age just so he would keep calling her that, as he thought it would be awkward. However, Hayen explains that she likes being called that way because it makes her feel like she is treated as an adult. He, looking at her a little longer, jokingly asks if she likes that kind of role-playing. But she quickly responds that it is not like that. She confesses that she simply enjoys it when he calls her Miss Hayen, and although she finds it a bit strange, she likes it. Yo-yoon, upon hearing that, tells her that from now on, he will call her that, as it is not that difficult. Immediately, he asks again how old she is, and if she is the same age as him. Then she replies that she is 21 years old. At that moment, it is revealed to us that Lee Yo-yoon is 25 years old. He thinks this is ridiculous. He believes that she is already a professional and argues that, to have finished university, she must have been at least 22 years old, so he does not understand how she can be that age. That is when Hayen reveals that she never went to university, that she simply got a job as soon as she came of age. She adds that if he does not believe her, she can show him her ID. This leaves him puzzled, remembering that in a previous conversation, she mentioned something about him still being in university. Hayen explains that she said that because she started working first while he was still studying, so technically, she was not lying. Yo-yoon also comments on how strange he finds it that she is so young and yet has such skill in preparing whiskey bombs. To which she responds that she learned it from her uncle. Just at that moment, the train begins to arrive. Hayen, leaning on Yo-yoon's shoulder, tells him that, anyway, he just made a promise and that it will not change the way he must call her from now on. Then she asks if he agrees, calling him Uncle Yo-yoon. This makes him laugh nervously, but he thinks that she speaks like an adult with many years of experience. He thought she would be older than him, or that maybe they would be the same age, but it turns out that she is a fox, meaning a sly, cunning, and sneaky person. And with that, we've reached the end of this week's chapter. If you made it all the way to the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this chapter in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe so our community can keep growing and we can reach more fans like you. See you in the next video. In the meantime, if you're from the near future, I'll leave you the next chapter and a comic you're sure to enjoy. Thank you for being part of this adventure.